valve is to get the IHRA definition to happen. And I just wanted to take this opportunity. I know we got a little off track there, but it's just so important. And I want to always give everybody something to do, on a campus, or what you could do with the Senate and things like that. So I'll give it back to you, honey.
Okay. So my next question that came in. So we do have a lot of parents on here as well of college students. And so again, I'm going to ask both of you this question. What should parents be doing from afar? It's really hard. Parenting is a really hard job, and it's even harder as your children get older, when they're more independent and when you're not there with them. So in this situation, what do you tell the parents when they're concerned about what's going on their child's campus?
So I have to say that something that we did, sorry, Eric, did you want to speak?
No, I'm going to say something very quick, and then I'm going to give it to you guys. This really starts when the children are youngsters, preschool, or going to elementary school, is to teach Jewish children their history. And the history of, everything is. I was listening to one of the Times of Israel correspondents talking specifically about the assimilated American Jew, and that the parents of our college kids now and the grandparents who wanted to assimilate desperately didn't give enough of the education. And the education could be religious. The education could just be the history of the Jewish people. Most don't know that. That's where it really has to begin. But now we're dealing with playing catch up, and I'll give it to Razy, of what to do, because it's obviously we need to do it, but it's got to start young.
So I think I just wanted to share one point, is that something that we started, especially more after October 7th, is that we feel that the communication with the parents is so important, because the parents I'll just share a quick thing that I came back from Israel, and Chabad on campus did the conference for the staff. So the women's conference was 2 weeks ago, and the men's conference is in July. So I was there for 6 days in Israel for a conference, and the Israeli campus, staff were all talking to us how we're fighting the war in America and how they feel for us. And we're feeling how they're literally living through a war in Israel. And I feel like when you're not somewhere, the fear is greater. You imagine things, you don't really know what's going on. And so you can conjure up some kind of, image of what's happening on campus. And then parents could be alarmist or could worry or could be concerned, not really knowing about what's going on the ground. So this is something that we started, and Mandel actually wrote an email almost every week to the parents, so that they can understand what's going on campus and how they could help their students either come out to things, be aware of what's going on, understand when there was tension, how the university was handling it, what they could be helpful with speaking to administration or not. So I think a lot of direct communication is very, very important. And there were also parents that were saying things without really knowing the facts. They posted pictures of this protest going on campus when really it happened downtown at the Capitol, without really knowing what's happening. So I feel like when you're far, you don't really know. And I feel like parents could be helpful in, getting their students to find their safe space, whether it's with Israeli organizations, whether it's with, Chabad, Hillel, whatever it is. And also, if there is an issue, to let us know, because we don't always know. There were certain things that happened on campus. If we knew about it, we were able to communicate with the university administration, and they actually were very, very responsive to things. And it's so much easier to nip it in the bud than it gets carried away and, blown way out of proportion. So I feel like communication is one of the biggest things, both from the parents to the children and the parents to the organizations on the ground on campus.
Well, I will reiterate that what Ray said. Those emails I felt were very helpful. Um, I do want to say that we had a mom, I'm thinking of a specific mom, whose son didn't come regularly. He was familiar with our place, and he would come from time to time. But after October 7th, he basically shut down. I believe that was because his mother is a very passionate woman. She's very concerned. She's a single mom, and she really put the fear of God in him about what's going on in the world. And so he had the fear of God, and he just was very alienated or And then we just told her, encourage him to come. And when he started coming, he was much, much happier. Parents don't realize how much they project uh, on their kids from a loving place, of course, but it really can. The tone is very important. What I want to say, it's very, very important. Um, can I say this? Basically, so we had the dubious distinction of the first SUNY campus to pass a BDS vote in the student government. That was probably the darkest night on campus, actually. Not so much the vote, because we knew that the people involved in student government were of that ilk and it was of that nature. Just to give you an idea, this is an 18,000 person campus, and only like 700 people, students, voted for student government. It's a very limited area. It sounds scary that they voted for BDS, but like the university is lock solid. They're not going there. It's a New York State school. And in fact, the president signed on to that YU definition of terrorism with Hamas. So it was very encouraging. By the way, the administration reached out to us right away on October 7th. It was 8th. It was still Yom Tov for us. And they reached out, and we had many meetings with them throughout the whole saga. They were very, very on top of things. They came to Shabbat dinners with the whole senior staff, 2 Shabbat dinners. They did like allow protests, but only for 1 hour. Like, they try to minimize it, like to keep it like without spilling over and no getting out of a certain area. Anyways, why am I telling you this? Oh, so we have this dubious distinction of being the first BDS vote, which was incredibly troubling. And because of the public comment period, our students spoke. They spoke eloquently. They spoke meaningfully. They spoke with nuance. They really had the facts down. They were prepared. By the way, there were national organizations that helped them prepare.
Hill worked with them as well.
Hill worked them as well. And we were very inspired by that. I didn't go. We didn't go because we felt it was a student like setup and forum. And but we watched it online. The other side really said vile things, very vile things, like unbelievable things that would never be said, as Dr. Mandel said, but any other minority. It was incredibly hurtful. So that was a very difficult night. But like actually, a lot of those students came back here afterwards. They wanted to talk. They wanted to be in a closed space. They wanted to. One last point about this. So I saw 2 other universities post about their BDS problem. And one Chabad wrote very alarmingly, very negatively, spilled the whole negativity of it, which I believe is strong. We have to recognize that. And the other one just wrote about mitzvahs, didn't address the BDS issue at all. And I really think that both those emails missed the boat, and that's something we worked very hard on for all our emails. Communication to have 2 sides to it. We wanted to share the reality on the ground. If there was an incident, if there was something said, what was said, how it was dealt with, how students are hearing about it, what they're doing about it. We shared all that, but we also included a lot of positivity, meaningfulness, good things that are going on, how students, you need to mix the 2. If you don't mix the 2, I think you are either denying a reality or becoming sucked into that reality. So I think that's a healthy mix. It's something actually the president university told us. It's here from Dr. Mandel.
I'm not sure everybody knows. I just want maybe I take a step back. BDS is to boycott, divest, and sanction against Israeli companies or academics. It's basically to delegitimize Israel. The biggest groups that do it on college campuses in general, Students for Justice in Palestine. You have groups in our lifetime, Jewish Voice for Peace, which is obviously misnomer. They're not for peace, and they're not very Jewish. When they've done statistics, AMCHA has done statistics out of California, where they have shown that how active the Students for Justice in Palestine is on a campus is how high the anti-Semitism is there. And in other universities, I'm hoping I hope SUNY Albany is a model from all the other places, because I don't usually get, that people are able to speak, students speak eloquently where they're not shouted down. My Columbias and my NYUs, and I heard it, my people at Emory, and I heard it, different universities had, some really, Boston University, some horrific things. Again, every campus is different. Again, before I talked about the IHRA definition. The other thing that is a leader in propagating anti-Semitism on campuses and really in corporations and academics and government is the diversity, equity, and inclusion movements, which basically propagate anti-Semitism. And they're really anti-Semitism in lamb's clothing, so to speak. And that should always, when you see things coming out of DEI, your ears should come up, because it's all about identity politics, and anti-Semitism unfortunately goes hand in hand with those type of things.
Let me just add one thing about what Dr. Eric said, and it's true, every campus is a little different. On our campus, and this was confirmed to us by the administration in multiple meetings, the primary driver on our campus of this negativity is anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, is actually the young, what is it called? Young Democrat Socialists of America. That student group is actually much more potent on our campus than the SJP. They partner with SJP, but SJP really doesn't have the wherewithal to put that together. So that's one point. And the other point is about DEI. It's interesting. I agree with Eric on the philosophy of behind DEI is used. It's an idealistic idea. It's a beautiful concept, but it's used to marginalize Jews the way it's been manipulated. But I will say at our campus, actually, the head of DEI and one of the primary DEI vice presidents is actually a friend and has been very supportive of us and very helpful, and actually called in all those students who spoke negatively who crossed the line. Instead of just saying an opinion, spoke with like malicious intent and venom, and they were all called in and spoken to by the DEI officer. So what I'm trying to say is, I think that has to do with a relationship. We know this with these people for 25 years. So some of that is helpful. But again, most campuses, I will agree with Dr. Mandel, the DEI is not our friend.